here. This was where they would have spent the majority of their time, especially in the winter months when it was too cold to be outside doing work around the community. And part of the time that they spent in here would be dedicated to making cloth that they needed to make things like clothes and blankets and bags. And so we're going to talk about two different ways to make cloth today. The first one was the most commonly used here at Bethabara. It's linen fabric. All of what I'm wearing today is made out of linen. We don't wear it a whole lot today because it's quite expensive, and that's because it takes so many steps to make it, and we'll talk about those. So linen starts off its life as a plant called flax. It's tall grass. It grows about waist height out in the field. It's pretty tall and green and has blue flowers in the spring. After the flowers die off, they leave little seed pods. You can see them here on the top of this flax straw. So after the seed pods have formed, you pull it up by the roots. They're very shallow. You pull it right out of the ground, and then you have to put it through a process called retting. To ret the flax, you lay it out in a thin layer in the grass. The dew gets it nice and wet every morning, and the sun makes it hot in the afternoons. That causes the cellulose in the plant cells to start to break down. And then after it's been retted, you let it dry one good afternoon, and you pull it up in bundles like this. You can store it until the fall when it's time to break the flax. That means you're going to take some of these stalks, put them into a machine called a Flax Break. It kind of looks like two pieces of wood hooked together with a handle. And that lets you start to break the stalks into pieces, and that lets the nice long fibers that grow just underneath the outside shell of the plant free, and it breaks up the hard inner core and lets it start to fall out, so you're starting to pull out the fibers. The next step is called scutching. You take those loosened fibers that still have a bunch of junk stuck in them and lay them over a wooden board. You beat it with a wooden stick, and that'll knock all that extra chaff or inside core of the plant out. And then you're ready to comb it or hackle it. The hackles are nails or spikes made out of metal, and you pull the flax through it. That combs it out, and you're left with these shorter pieces that don't spin into nice cloth. They get stuck in the nails. You can pull these out and use them to make a rope, or very, very coarse thread for toe cloth sacks. And then after the combing, the flax will be all ready to be twisted up and hung up and made to spin. So it almost looks like blonde hair, and in fact, in colonial times, flax was sometimes used to make blonde wigs. So after this is spun, it'll be very thin thread. You can then take it to the weaver, and they will use a loom to weave it into fabric, and you get that fabric back from the weaver and can use it to make your clothing. Another option for fabric in Bethabara was wool. Now, wool is nice and warm in the winter, but you wouldn't want to wear it in the hot summer months here. But wool was one of the things that children helped prepare quite frequently. After you've sheared the sheep and cleaned your wool, the next step is called carding. You use combs like these to take the fiber and comb it all into nice, even rows so that it will spin well. So carding is one of the first things that children would have learned to do. You would just stretch out your wool and then use the combs to comb it out. And you can see it's starting to make nice, even rows of the fiber. That'll make it spin well. After it's all carded, you would pull it off, spin it on a spindle or spinning wheel. Children learn to spin on a drop spindle. It works the same way as a spinning wheel. It just introduces twist into the fiber, and after the twists are there, it makes the yarn, and then that can be taken to the weaver and woven into wool cloth as well. Both of these were options used here at Bethabara and were very important to daily life here.